The hardest teams are those that either see themselves as pretty successful or they indeed are fairly successful, versus a team that knows, okay, we got a lot of drama.
Some problems.
We got a lot of dysfunction.
Welcome back to Torch Talk, the show where we spotlight bold local leaders growing their businesses and communities with grit and purpose. Today's guest is Rodd Welker from Eagle Advisor Group. With more than 35 years of experience empowering teams and executives through coaching, training, and experiential learning, Rodd brings a unique perspective on maximizing potential and performance. Today, we'll talk about what it takes to build strong leaders, foster effective teams, and unlock growth through intentional development and insight. So welcome to Torch Talk, Rodd.
Well, thanks for having me.
So nice to have you here. Rodd is always a good time. That's what I just said. So we know each other from being involved with the Branches community, and you're always involved with helping bring some fun, exciting, crazy activities. So I've gotten a tiny glimpse of what you do. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what have you been doing for 35 years / the life before that? Bring us up to date. Tell us about your journey, Rodd.
It's quite the journey. So I grew up in Wayne County. I'm a Smithville Smithy. I know.
Not so much.
Some listeners may like that. Some may not.
Well, we're not Waynedale girls.
There you
here.
go. There you go. A good old, county school. And yes, after undergrad, I got into kind of a typical business entrance way. That is sales. So out from Wayne County, was working in downtown Cleveland, East 9th and St. Clair. So did B2B sales. And actually one of my clients or customers asked if I would be interested in a managerial position. And, when you're 23, you're ready for management. Not. But it was a great opportunity, and worked in it was a family-owned business, chemical business, called Pioneer Manufacturing. But they did no manufacturing. It was all jobbed out.
Okay.
So, but we had proprietary products. We even had some proprietary equipment. Our claim to fame was a product called Bright Stripe. So if you would see athletic fields at high school, collegiate, even at the professional level, all those colorful stripes, colorful end zones, a lot of times that would have been our product and applied by some of our equipment. So it was kind of cool. We had a national sales force, and I was in all kinds of different managerial opportunities in that 6-year stint. Earned my graduate degree in student development, and that brought me into the higher ed world, and worked at Penn State University for 8 years, worked my way up to an associate dean level, and then became a dean of students at a small private liberal arts college in Virginia called Bluefield College. What brought us back to Ohio was to be part of a succession plan for the Christian Children's Home of Ohio. And so I did that for a number of years, and then what I had been doing as kind of an avocation, moonlighting in this adventure-based team building, developing some corporate clients and leadership training, that avocation became full-time back in 2012. Also have done a couple of ventures, some that were quasi-successful, some not so, but you learn a lot as an entrepreneur from failure just as much, if not more. So I even had a self-serve frozen yogurt, 2 stores, one in the Triadelphia area outside of Wheeling, where Big Cabela's is, and then one at the mall in New Philadelphia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Did some franchise brokering along the way, so all different kinds of things that brought me to obviously what I do.
So what are you doing now? Do you work with set amount of clients? Like I said, you do a lot of fun activities. I know you're involved with Leadership Worcester through the Worcester Chamber. So tell us a little bit about who are you working with now?
So I've got local clients, clients throughout the state of Ohio, and then I have clients around the country.
Okay.
So a few of those clients, I actually, from a partnership perspective, are on a retainer. So I handle the vast majority of their leadership development. I am available for all their employees and leaders, again, all different tiers, from the emerging leaders all the way to the CEO. And so that's been a lot of fun, working for long periods of time with the same client and customers. But then I also have the opportunity to travel and get to work with organizations and companies. Sometimes they're one-offs, right? They hear about me somehow and they say, "Hey, Rodd, can you come?" And but I enjoy the opportunity to kind of develop more long-term relationships with some of my clients. But yes, so certified Angus beef here locally, Western Reserve Group, work with a lot of rural electric cooperatives at the statewide in Columbus, but then throughout the local co-ops in the state. Here locally, Holmes Wayne Electric. And but I have a client in Alaska.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. When
How long does it take to get to Alaska? It's
well,
not that bad. Okay, now I went to Mongolia this year with branches. There's nowhere further than that.
That's true. That is true. That is true. So it takes about 5 hours to get from here to Seattle.
Okay.
And then another 5 hours or so, Seattle to Anchorage, 4 hours depending.
Can you only go certain times of the year because it's dark where you're going, no matter whether it's light or dark?
Well, what's amazing, the first time I was ever in Alaska was in January. And, of course, that's when it's the darkest, right? So there may have been 2 or 3 hours where it was dusk or dawn. I don't even know what they would say. But, yeah, it was dark. Minus 17, minus 20. In fact, the Monday, which was like 2 days before I arrived, they had 17 inches of snow, almost like what we just had. But the difference is, all the roads are snow covered. They don't use salt. So, but I love it. I love cold. I love snow. I missed not seeing the sun.
That would be really, really hard.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot of studies done on
Yes.
being
Oh,
there.
yeah. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I would be depressed. Now, I will say the latest in the year that I was in Alaska was just last year or so, June. And there, it's like 10 or 11 at night, and you would still think it's like 7.
Yeah, right, because they have both. They get all sun and all dark.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Okay, so because you get to work with so many different types of clients in different backgrounds and different levels of leadership, talk to me about some of the common challenges you see in today's workplace, or like what are some of the things that you're coaching or helping the most with?
Sure. I mean, there's the obvious, the very common issues around communication, building trust, dealing with difficult conversations, right? Navigating conflict, all of that. Those are very common issues, and the content that we deliver addresses a lot of those through first understanding your style, being self-aware, but learning how to regulate, but then also how to create environments and cultures that hopefully will bring about those strong, high-performing teams that everybody wants, strives toward. And the bottom line, people are messy. And so really the common denominator is we're human. And there's a lot of dynamics when you think of it from both an individual perspective and then collectively as a team. How do we navigate that, right? And I always say you don't want to eliminate or remove tension. You want to learn how to manage that tension. And healthy teams, high-performing, high-functioning teams are better at that endeavor.
How do you work with a business owner or help them see or understand? Maybe they think their team is good. How do they? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
Maybe they don't. Oftentimes, when I'm talking, with business owners, and even in regards to marketing, there's some things they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, right? So they don't know what might be possible when it comes to building a team. So I guess if we're looking at some tools, maybe if somebody who's listening, what would be some key things they could think, okay, I'm going to run my business through this kind of checklist of, can I answer yes or no to these things? I know it's not that simple, but I'm just thinking about if you're going in and assessing a business, what are you thinking through to assess how healthy their team is? Kind of help you learn this is where I need to start. Or do you always start the same way?
No, you don't always start the same way, but I will say this. It's kind of interesting. We all can have blind spots, and leaders, I think, especially so. And sometimes we call it that leadership gap, where what I think and the contrast between what they think, what I see, what they see. And, actually a red flag for me is when a leader says, actually, we don't have a lot of conflict or things are going really, really well. And that's when I'm like, So the question is it that they don't know what they don't know, or are they choosing not to see what could be very glaring, right? And, depending. Now, with the clients that I've worked with for a number of years, I have access to those employees. And so I know what they are telling me. And, again, a good to great leader is one who not only has self-awareness, but is also very reflective and allows for that kind of feedback from others to be known rather than kind of swept under the rug. So, from a tool perspective, you can do employee engagement surveys. You can do gap surveys. But a lot of times with leaders, they kind of know the issues, or at least they know where they think we should start, whether it's, I'm not happy with the level of trust that we have and the communication breakdowns that may exist. The fact that we know how important psychological safety is, but pretty confident that that doesn't exist. Or it may exist in some departments or with some relationships, but not to the extent we want it. And so, for me, I'm an assessment junkie, so assessments are another great tool, and there's so many out there.
Like, give me some examples.
So the DISC, and a lot of people assume...
What are you? What's your DISC?
I am an ID.
Okay. I'm a DI.
Okay. So we get that, right? Yeah. Now, I'm really, really high I, and my D will match it in stress. So, and a lot of people see that as a great tool. Some people see it as a personality, but it actually is more behavioral. So it helps us understand how we interact with other people and how we communicate with others. And of course, the goal is not that they adapt to us, but we adapt to their styles.
We did the DISC assessment as a team a number of years ago. We actually now use it in the hiring process so we can see where somebody will fit on our team wheel if we're bringing them in. It is not an end-all be-all, so I want to talk about the other tests in a second, but it is for sure a tool not only to know yourself better, but to look at somebody else. Like, one of the things we learned from that was, over half our team is a C, the blue, and they need to have our team meeting agenda at least 3 days before we're going in, or else we're never going to get answers, feedback, and engagement the way that we want. I'm a D. I'm going to give you a question. You ask me a question, I'm going to answer you right now. Like, there is no, I will just spit it out.
Right.
Not everybody is like that. So, but that's true in coaching, but that's true in sales. How do I look at who I'm selling to and how we give them information? Sure. But okay, what are some of the other assessments you like to use?
So there is a trust assessment that we use. It's through a book called Trustology, and it looks at the three main components of that trust dynamic, which is integrity, competence, and compassion. So we can, again, look at that both individually and collectively. And from a team perspective, that gives us a way to see, okay, where are we strong? Where do we need to give some attention? Where can we improve? There's also the team assessment that is through the 5 dysfunctions.
Okay.
And that covers all 5 areas.
That's like a Patrick Lencioni.
Yep. His book that really put him on the map, which is, believe it or not, over 25 years old now.
The 5 dysfunctions of a team. Yes, I've read
Correct.
that one. Yep.
It's, to me, one of the must-reads. And if you have read it, but it's been a while, reread it.
All of his books are so easy to read.
Yeah,
How
most of them.
Not?
Right. I mean, they have that fable format, so people kind of get into the story, the characters. They can identify pretty easily with them. But and his latest one now is the 6 Types of Genius. So got certified in that program, which is the Working Genius.
I did that. So I read that book on the way to Mongolia.
Awesome.
I read it. I'm not 100% sure my test was accurate. It's discernment and not wonder is in the middle.
No, wonder would be first, and then invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity.
So Enablement and tenacity are my two lowest.
Okay.
Wonder and galvanizing were in the middle, and that leaves discernment and invention as my strongest.
Those are your geniuses then.
What I was curious about is invention and wonder. I could very easily flip flop. I don't know how close they were in the test assessment, but like when I was thinking about how accurate that was, I am very curious about that one. And when I did that and read it, I was like, okay, well, now how does this apply to my team? And thinking about reading the book and hearing in the fable, he's saying, why did I always get so frustrated when I got to this point? So like that learning that about yourself of like, oh, why do I always basically self-sabotage when I get to this point in a task or a process or whatever, and being able to be aware of that. But as a leader, to be able to see that in my team and say, oh, well, maybe we're asking them to do strategy and they're really good at tasking. They're really good at finishing.
Sure.
Or maybe they really want to be a strategist, but we're asking them to, I'm very curious to see how some of the cards fall with that.
Yeah. And there's guilt and judgment associated with those feelings, right? Whether it's that self-sabotage and or how I judge others as to they don't care, or why are they so lazy when it's just not in their geniuses, it's in their frustrations. And so it complements very, very well, for my clients that are using both the DISC and the Working Genius. Actually, your C type, that style loves the Working Genius because, as Lencioni would say, 80% of the results are all about productivity, which is that task orientation that C's and D's have. So my geniuses are galvanizing and invention. How that is manifested, how those geniuses are manifested, are through my high I. And so when I am trying to galvanize a team rally, which is interesting because now that's kind of my role, not just for a team, but for individuals and teams and organizations for whom I serve. And, I'm going to do it with that high I. So when you were saying, oh, Rodd, he's all that fun and games person, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of positivity. That's because I'm this real high I. You could be a galvanizer and be this real high S, a little more reserved. You'll still galvanize, but you're going to galvanize differently.
Yes.
And so that Working Genius has received a ton of traction. I've never been a part of an assessment from the beginning, from its earliest of stages. And it's been fun actually being a part of that.
I'm excited. We're going to do a team exercise here in a couple of weeks and have everybody do the test. So I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. But
let me know. I'll be happy
interesting. I also did not realize that C's are high on the task, like the task-oriented side too. But that makes sense because I have some employees. I have one employer in particular. I always joke. I'm like, we're exact opposites on the DISC, but we work really well together. But that makes sense why. So.
Right.
Anyway, okay. Any other assessments or things that you're going in?
So I have a lot of that are self-assessments that are part of the training. So there's a conflict assessment that's really valuable because people learn their conflict style, and that helps them understand a little bit more. But again, the idea, the self-awareness, others' awareness, but as you know, it's what do you do with that awareness that matters most.
Yes, absolutely. And don't use it as a license to fly your freak flag, as I like to say.
Exactly.
This doesn't mean you get to be a butthole just because you're like, oh, I'm a high D.
Yes,
no,
exactly.
It's so you're aware of how you might affect other people on the team, for sure.
Well, the people that struggle with assessments or they have some reservations, I understand. If we're using it to label people, which is not the purpose, and or if we use it as a crutch, which is what you're saying.
Right.
Hey, I'm a high D. Get over it. Deal with it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to drive through and get this all
done.
No,
it's the idea of now that I am aware, that helps me understand my behavior or what are my strengths. How do I leverage those? But also, how do I regulate so I don't become an issue for somebody else?
Correct.
So
yeah. I've said for years, it sounds like you kind of do this in your coaching, but to create Self-assessment, I love all of the different personality tests, but they're also individualized. I'm like, why don't they just put them all into one? So we have like your love languages, your Enneagram, your DISC test, because
Right.
everything, like you had said, you might be these working geniuses, but your DISC is this way, so it presents in a different way. Often I've just felt like you're only seeing one little sliver of the whole entire person and their true uniqueness. So
Yeah.
I've talked about doing that here as a team, mostly so people can get the full picture of themselves, because we do lead a group of young people. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, if you could learn now what took me 20 years to learn, that would be great. Like,
And
I
in
know
reality, a lot of them are way further ahead earlier in their lives. And I think because they're being a part of things and opportunities and having experiences that we didn't get until later. So they're being exposed to a lot more. But yeah, I mean, with any assessment, there's like we're this 1,000-piece puzzle, right? And not one assessment is going to give the complete picture. We're way more complex than any one assessment, any two assessments. But
5.
each assessment adds more of those puzzle pieces to gain a clearer picture of what you're going to expect, what you're going to experience. You know, my favorite line of the disc is, "What's it like on the other side of me?" That's the awareness I really want to be known. What's it like for you when you're experiencing my profile?
So do you have ways that you coach towards that self-awareness? Because I think that, I mean, you have to be self-aware or have a desire to want to be self-aware in order to take full advantage of not only any of the assessments, but coaching in and of itself, really any type of feedback.
Yes.
So self-awareness, I don't know. How do you assess and realize, am I actually self-aware or not? How do you open somebody up to that? Maybe I don't know if you ever experienced resistance in your coaching. Maybe somebody's hired you in and then people are like, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How can you help somebody kind of?
Well, they have to have that desire. They want to know more about themselves, that self-awareness that you're saying. But they also have to have the willingness to do something about it, right? And so more often than not, people want to become better versions of themselves. They want to be better teammates and team players. They want to have, a greater contribution for their team or organization. They just don't know how to get there. And sometimes the biggest hurdle is themselves. And so you kind of just help them. And honestly, it's through a lot of dialogue. Some of it is very difficult conversations, like almost in your face, like, really? That's how people perceive me, or that's what they're getting when they're working with me? Yeah, sometimes. And that's even from a team perspective. It's teams that are willing to actually have those tough conversations with one another. And so sometimes what's most fun for me is working with an intact team, facilitating those kinds of conversations to get them moving from where they are to where they want to go. You asked a while ago about various teams or organizations, and how do you get them to move forward? The hardest teams are those that either see themselves as pretty successful or they indeed are fairly successful, versus a team that knows, okay, we got a lot of drama.
Some problems.
We got a lot of dysfunction, right? And so it's moving an organization or team that's actually doing pretty good work and they're succeeding and they're getting a lot of production or output, and how to move them versus that really struggling team or organization. And so again, part of it is we just got to get it out of the way. So
Do you do any, or have you helped create any curriculums for companies for like onboarding new employees, leadership curriculum?
Yeah, actually again, depending on the client, we have put together various leadership programs, like a development series. And sometimes we've created content around, that specific audience. Is this emerging leaders, first-time supervisors? Is this at that mid-level C-suite? And then even some curricula around that is specifically for that CEO individual. So, yeah, and a lot of it is just the packaging. So inventory of the tools and curricula and assessments and all of that. I have a pretty wide quiver, and it's a matter of choosing the arrows that we think, I work with my individual, the conduit or the HR person or the leader, whomever, to put together what we think is the best package for them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I tell the team all the time, I was in banking for 12 years before I got into marketing. And I was a young manager too. I think they promoted me when I was like 20 to be like the teller supervisor. I'm like, what's wrong with you now? But the thing that they did well was they had training programs. And I don't run into very many organizations now that are structured this way. But I used to go to East 9th Street in downtown Cleveland, and we had a very structured, I will never forget sitting in a class and learning how to tell somebody that they had body odor. Like this is how you have a difficult conversation.
Yep.
And I really, truly did not realize how valuable that was then, and really what kind of found it, it's a year and a half, like development program, you go once a month, all of those things. Banking's kind of hard because of the structure, but also that structure has really set me up for success now. So I wish I saw more companies kind of developing structure. I mean, especially in the area that we live in, I feel like people want to live in the wild, wild west, at least our clients do. And kind of, I don't know, they're almost anti-structure to a degree, but there's some value in bringing those things in. I think it brings stability for their employees.
Oh, and it's also a retention effort, really, because employees typically will stay with a company that is investing in them, right? And so I see that as a strong proponent or a reason for this kind of training. And your larger corporations, even some mid-level or mid-size companies, they'll have their own universities, right? So probably what you did was through their very structured, kind of, like you said, program. And that is valuable. More and more companies are seeing, even some of the smaller companies are seeing the value of leadership training. We all know that this significant leadership cliff that we're at the cusp of, right on the edge, right? We're seeing a lot of senior leaders ready for retirement. Who's coming
Up behind.
That's
and what's the gap?
question.
Yeah.
That's the concern, right? So how are we addressing that? Well, hopefully we're preparing and training and working with so that we have able-bodied individuals to take the helm.
Any other key tools or things you'd want to share to somebody listening? We've talked about a lot of different types of assessments.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, there's just so many. I will say that actually it's more of an activity, and most of us probably are not doing it, but we would benefit if we did, and that is journaling.
Okay.
The idea of keeping journals, so you can keep journals for all kinds of reasons. The gratitude journal can be so valuable, even in the workplace, though. When you're dealing with a team member who tends to struggle with self-worth, or they suffer with self-sabotage, they see themselves as failing over and over again. Well, what wins have they had? And putting together this list of the successes, things to be thankful for, as I said, with the gratitude journal. When change happens, when I can go back and see how I successfully navigated a past change, gives me a little bit more courage, boldness, and I've got that comfort level that we're going to get through this also, just like we did 2 years ago. So, and that whole self-reflection, as I said earlier, that really can separate a good leader to a great leader. Journaling is a way to kind of put that down in writing, and allows me to see the journey I'm on.
I love a new year because I always sit down and I'm doing planning. This was the first year that I actually went back through a journal through an entire year and reflected over that. And it was so insightful. I was like, oh my, and I don't journal like long paragraphs. Like sometimes it's just like 2 or 3 words of a bullet point list. Like this is all I can get out today.
Well, that's your D.
Right.
You would be bullet.
Yes.
Bullet.
Right. I'm not writing long, flowery.
Not a narrative.
But I'm like, oh, grateful, prayer list, here's what was accomplished. But it was so insightful to look back and say, oh my goodness, this is where I was at a year ago, and just flipping through. And that's something I will do every year from now on. Yeah. It's actually motivated me to stick with it this year, because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be sitting here a year from now and not be, see what happened with this problem, or, how did we get through that? So it was definitely motivating. I really second what you're saying and encourage people. And I wanted to say, it doesn't have to be like, I think you say journaling and people think it has to be such, I'm pouring my heart out. No. It can be however you're thinking, quick thoughts, or it could be, maybe you are a more poetic writer. That's okay too.
Well, and a form of journaling is what entrepreneurs do a lot of times with their ideas. Mm-hmm. But it takes whatever it is that you're thinking and or feeling, and move from just in the brain to, okay, now I'm writing it down. And there's something about handwriting. That's why anytime I do training, I always have handouts that I ask and expect people to do note-taking, right? And there was a study that just came out that there's a difference in being able to remember. That recall is called application. And that's why I want them to...
Why did they make us write in school?
Exactly. And reading is and I'm not a reader. I do not, believe it or not, if you went to my home office, you would see literally hundreds of books. I read. I couldn't even tell you how many each year. I don't necessarily have a goal. I just keep reading. It's not because I actually enjoy reading. I do not like the act of reading. Never have. But I enjoy what I'm reading.
The content.
So that's the motivation.
You enjoy learning.
Right. You never stop learning, right? As that lifelong learner. So where do you get that input? Where do you feed that urge, that desire, that need to learn?
Do you like audiobooks, or are you just a hard book?
So what's funny with me, I have to have the hard book, and I'll tell you why. I've tried, but my mind wanders. Those who know me were like, yeah, of course we know that. So if I'm listening to something, I'm only partially listening. Mm-hmm. Reading, I feel like I'm more forced to actually pay attention to the words on the page, and go back to that handwriting notes and things like that. I'm a highlighter. Okay. And I will write little, I'll put a symbol, a star, an exclamation point, a question mark, or a couple of words in the margins. And so that helps me also not only remember, but when I go back and I want to look at kind of the summary of what I just read, my eyes will pick up those notes and the highlights and whatnot. So, yeah.
I like to do audiobooks, but I typically try to do it like while I'm driving. I find I'm a little because I'm doing 2 things at one time. Yeah, I could definitely not just sit there and listen to an audiobook, but I do prefer a hard book in real life as well. It's more of a time issue. Like, okay, how can I make the best use of my time? Sure. I did feel slightly convicted this year. Instead of watching entertaining shows while getting ready, I might be listening to some leadership content instead. So we all need to make sure we're investing that time however it sees fit. Agreed.
And I get it. Time is limited, so.
It is, but it's not. Like,
thank you for saying that.
Look at your social media. I'm preaching to the choir here. Like, we have more time than what we think we do.
The reality is, we will spend the time the way we see and what is important to us.
Literally, that's what, if it's important to you, you're going to make time for it.
You're going to make the time for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I understand at the end of the day, you're just beat, and sometimes you don't want to do anything else. Right. I understand that. There's rest too. But if we really start dissecting the time, we have time during the day. So
yeah, I just had this conversation with somebody. It can be, you talk about convicting, when your iPhone, and I'm sure the Android phones do the same thing, will tell you how many hours you spent on that phone every Sunday
during
week.
Church.
Yeah. And it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then I try to rationalize, well, I was looking at emails, reading something.
I work on my phone.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But I also know how many hours are also within that scrolling and...
Yes.
going
It's
down
just
that
too
rabbit
easy.
hole.
It is. It's a slippery slope.
Yep.
And honestly, social media is an educational piece too. I mean, there's a lot to learn in those places. And honestly, I utilize it in that way, but sometimes it's just too much. We need to disconnect from that. All of my clients don't listen to that. No, I'm just kidding. Stay tuned into social media.
There's a fine line.
There's a fine line,
That's
yes.
for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Rodd. I really enjoyed
Thanks for
the
having me.
conversation.
This was a blast.
Love hearing a little bit of your expertise and how you coach teams. If somebody wanted to talk to you more, how would they find you?
They can reach out. I do have a website at eagleadvisorgroup.com. And they can also reach out via my email, which is Rodd, R-O-D-D, at eagleadvisorgroup.com.
So that's local, regional, national, international. Rodd is willing to help you have the best team ever.
My only international training was in Germany, of all places.
Well, at least you had an international training.
Yeah, I can say I did it. I did it. It was right before COVID, and then I kind of shut that down.
Well, maybe this will open the door for an opportunity.
Well, that's why I love branches, right? We get to do some international stuff. So,
we love the branches community. Thanks for tuning in to Torch Talk. If today's story sparks something for you, share it with a colleague, community leader, or future change maker. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep your fire burning.